Okay, good evening, Rabbi. First things first, I guess Peischen B'chveit HaAchsanya. This is a Beis Medrash where I spent many happy years when I was at the same stage of life as many of you are, and I certainly have a huge Hakaras HaTov to the base, or the Bet Midrash, as it used to be known. Lashon Ova. But is it very, very much? It really filled a very important gap in my life, in some kind of Ben Azman in between yeshiva and kollel, where I spent some time at university as well. So it really, that's what my parents thought anyway. So it really a huge amount of hakaras HaTov. But let's get to L'Inyanim. Purim. Kima v'kiblu haYehudim. Purim is a time of Kabbalah Satira. Kimu Masha Kiblu Kvar. So it seems at the end of the Purim story, there was a new Kabbalah Satira. Maida Rabbi L'Raisa, the Luchais were given B'Kfir, Kof Aleim Har Kegigis. The mountain is suspended, like some kind of wine barrel appropriate for Purim, I guess. But it was B'Kfir. Halda kiblu b'mei Achashverosh. In time of Achashverosh, the Makabel the Torah Baratze Ma'ava. The shaila is, what was it about the Nes Purim that enabled us to have this new revelation of Kimu v'Kiblu, this new Kabbalah Satira, that Yetzias Mitzrayim wasn't able to achieve? You'd have thought Yetzias Mitzrayim, they lived they just experienced 10 machris. They'd ridden the wave, quite literally, at Kriyas Yamsuf. Chlal, the Dardeya, are living with Nisim Gluyim for 40 years. Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, they have Hashras HaShechina. They have the Nisim in the Beis HaMikdash, and none of that could create that which the Nes Purim was able to achieve of a new Kabbalah Satira. It's a fair question. So, something that's bothered me for a while, and I'd like to answer it based on something I heard from my Rabbi Yitzchak Berkovitz, based on the Maral. Maral is in the Hakdama to Or Chadash. And Maral says something very cryptic, Kedarka B'Kodesh, and talks about, of course we know, the Nes Purim was a Nes Nista, Nes Chanukah is a Nes Nigla, Yetzias Mitzrayim is clearly Nisim Gluyim. But Purim is Nes Nista. Ad Shabam Makam Elyoin Nista. It came from an elevated, concealed place. Now that means that everything about Purim is Nista. Kadosh Baruch Hu's name is not in the Megillah. It means you look at any isolated point in the story of Purim, and it all looks very normal. You can only, when you see the full picture, do you see the thread of Hashkacha that's weaved through? Do you actually see the Yad Hashem working, pulling the strings like a puppeteer? So the simple understanding of a Nes Nista is that the miracle was hidden. But then, if all it means is that the miracle was hidden, if all that means that you could have missed it, you know, a person can be a Bible critic and still read the book of Esther and have a fascinating, riveting time, making all kinds of assumptions, drashas, whatever they do. And you can miss the nes. That's what it means. If that's what it means, then why would there be a bigger Kabbalah Satira? And what does the Maral mean? Mokem Elyoin Nista. It seems to be that it's Nista Ma'od. So perhaps what this means is when something is Nista, when you have a Nes Nista, it means nothing is lacking. Klal Yisrael standing at the Yamsuf, Kadosh Baruch Hu has to do a Kriyas Yamsuf. That meant there was something lacking in order for them to cross to the other side. Something had to change. When you have a Nes Nista, nothing needs to change. Chanukah, Nes Nigla, they were lacking the Shemen for 8 days. Something has to change. They were lacking something, and the nes was mamala that chesaron. When it comes to nista, it means nothing is missing. Nothing overt has to happen. Which leads us to a fascinating idea. That in a world of nes nista, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is talking to us in subtleties, in nuance. For anyone that's been learning Daf Hayomi, when you get to Chagiga, second parak of Chagiga, when it comes to things that you're not even allowed to be doresh, ein doreshim barayas b'shloishav l'maisa b'reishis b'shnayim v'lemekava b'yachid ela im kein hayachacham u'mevin midaita. It seems to be that the more the Messiah is incomplete, the more the Makabel has to work. You have to have a Chacham Hamevin Ma'atzma. You've got to be able to understand it for yourself. There's only so much the Noisein can give, and the Makabel has to work all the harder for things that are higher. Meaning the higher the Chachma, the more important it is that Chachma is not given over on a silver platter. You get to the Maisa Merkava, don't expect to be able to get an art scroll version of the Maisa Merkava. It's not going to work. You can't have that on a silver platter. The more refined the Chachma, the higher the Chachma, the more you're going to have to work at it. The more nuanced it is, the more subtle it is. Mashal Amar Davadayma. You're a teacher in a primary school, a Kodesh teacher, a Rabbi in a Cheder, and you're telling the story, any of the stories in Tanakh. You have to give over the story and miss nothing out. I don't know, you're telling the story of Avram and Stein. You've got to tell every little detail to the kids, and you captivate their hearts and you capture their minds. I still have in my mind pictures from when I had good teachers in primary school. Certain episodes in Tanakh, I can still visualize them because the teacher painted such a vivid picture that the child builds up an image in their mind. Now you go give a chumash shir to Yeshiva Bachrim, to Avrechim, to Balabatim Chashuvim, and speak to them in the same way as you would to kids in year 2, year 3. It's a zilzal. That's not how we teach adults. That's not how we teach people that have developed themselves. When it comes to kids, you can't leave out any details. When it comes to teaching adults, they can fill in the blanks. They can join the dots themselves. A shifcha alayam can say ze keli. She can have a saga of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Because she's like a child. She's still a shifcha. That was a nes nigla. That's a Kodesh Baruch Hu teaching us, so to speak, kindergarten style. Primary school style. There's no subtlety in Kriyas Yamsuf. It's a nes nigla. When it comes to the nes Purim, says the Maharal, it comes from a Mokem Elyon Hanista. What does that mean? It means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is talking to us in subtleties. The nes of Purim as HaKadosh Baruch Hu talking to us like adults. And isn't it interesting? Pesach's at the beginning of the year. Maybe that's kindergarten, nursery, reception, whatever. By the time we've gone through the whole process of the year, we end up at Purim. And that's the end, that Kabbalah Satorah at the end of the year, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is speaking to us like adults or like lamdanim, to be chachamim, hamavinim ma'atzmam, where we don't get the chachma on a silver platter anymore. So Taka, maybe we could say then that there was a Kabbalah Satorah of Kimu v'Kiblu. But what was that Kabbalah Satorah? It was an amkus. It was a whole new level of amkus, of subtlety, that they didn't have beforehand. That's what you get when you live in a world of Hastara. When you see the Yad Hashem, when He's so concealed. Where you're able to see in the darkness. Where you're able to discern the name of Hashem in a book where it is not written at all. Where you're able not to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu because Le'yirani Adam V'chai, but you can see what He does. That requires a person to have a mature approach. A mature approach to the understanding of the Rabbi Shalom. A mature approach, therefore, in their own learning as well. And that's the goal. As we get to this new level of Kabbalah Satorah on Purim, it's a Kabbalah Satorah which is Doresh Amilus. Which means we have to work at it. Yeah, my Dar Rabba Laharaisa, we were given it as a freebie. The Dar Deya, 40 years in Kailo. Not lacking anything. Lechem min hashamayim. They had it all. But so to speak, that's what they needed in their years of infancy. That's what Klal Yisrael needed in their formative years. To have everything spelled out for us. But right now, Purim, the end of the year, this is a Kabbalah Satorah of maturity and subtlety, where we have to deal and work it out for ourselves. And it is so much greater. It's so much deeper. There's so much more to it when we commit ourselves to learning on that level, where we don't expect everything to be laid out for us on that silver platter, where we're able to try and reach the level of Chachamim Mevinim Medaitam, to be Chachamim that are willing to work it out for ourselves, because when we do, it's so much more rewarding and so much more satisfying. Halavai Shenizkeh, have a wonderful, wonderful Purim.